All right, guys. So I kind of want to quickly address a couple of things that I didn't during class. So don't forget that for number one, for example, you have to tell me the domain, and the domain is anywhere really for this one between negative infinity and the x value of the whole. Right. In this case, the x value of the whole would be 2. All right, and for the range, for this one, it's just a line, so the range would just be y is equal to 1. Now, if you ever have a vertical asymptote or a horizontal asymptote, that's going to affect your domain and range. Now, let's look at number 8, all right? So number 8 is kind of weird. You graph it, and there's nothing that cancels, right? So if there's nothing that will cancel, this will have no hole. Now, if I do have vertical asymptote, remember, I would set my denominator equal to 0. So I'm going to set each part of my denominator equal to 0 and solve, right? So my vertical asymptote for this one would be 0, and my vertical asymptote, I would also have one at negative 4. Now for my horizontal asymptote, since nothing canceled really, I can just look at the degree of the function up here and the degree of the function on the bottom. If you notice, the degree on the bottom is bigger, and remember we talked about it, that if the degree is bigger on bottom, all right, the answer, the horizontal asymptote would be y is equal to 0. All right, so for this one, we can at the very least draw a dashed line for my vertical asymptotes and one dashed line for my horizontal asymptotes. And then finally, to figure out a couple more things that perhaps are not you're not required to do the x and y-intercept, but if I look for the x-intercept, remember, I would set my numerator equal to 0 in this case. So that would give me x is equal to negative 1/2. So I would at the very least know that at x is equal to negative 1/2, which is about right there, I would have some kind of x-intercept, right? And now as far as the y-intercept goes, for the y-intercept, remember, I would plug in a 0 for x. So if I plug in a 0 for x, if I plug in a 0 for x up here, it'd probably be a lot easier. Now notice that if I plug in a 0 for x, I would end up with 1 over 0, which can't happen, all right? So there is no y-intercept for this one. Now last but not least, let's talk about the domain and the range for this one. Let's see, if I haven't graphed it, you probably want to graph it before you end up here. I think this ends up looking something weird like this. Yes. And I could be wrong about that. I guess I can go to Desmos real quick and check it out. Hang on just a second. Let me look at Desmos. I don't want to be sloppy about this. All right, so let's go to Desmos. And let's just type that in real fast to see what it looks like. So again, you should be able to at least do that. So we got, I'm going to put this in parentheses. So we got 4x squared plus 4x plus 1. Close parentheses, divide that by, let's see, we have a 2x cubed plus 8x squared. So let's see, plus, okay. So that's what it would look like, right? So I was slightly wrong. Notice that you do have the x-intercept right at 1/2 like we predicted. And we do have the two vertical asymptotes what we said, all right? So we can kind of zoom out so you can see it. All right, so let's kind of more or less graph something like that on here. Let's see, I think I got this wrong. Yeah, I got them backwards. All right, so this one right here is actually the opposite. This kind of does this. And this one kind of does that. Okay, so for my domain is going to be everything from negative infinity all the way to my x value of the vertical asymptote. And notice that I'm going to go all the way to negative 4, right? Because that's the other one that I have to respect. and then from -4 all the way to positive infinity. All right, and then finally the range. On this one, the range would be everything but the the horizontal asymptote. So this would be negative infinity to 0, and this one is mighty interesting because it does touch right at 0. So man, this is a very weird domain and range on this one. So this one right here, I would say everything but everything but the the x-axis. But notice that I do have an x-intercept, so that does include that. So the range on this one, as weird as that looks, is everything. It's actually all real numbers, right? Because even though it doesn't touch the horizontal asymptote, the outside of the function does not touch it. The inside function, specifically right here, will touch it. So the minute range can be confusing. All right, so again, I'll have this open so you can see the odd answers. So check it out, and hopefully you can get this done by tomorrow.